Hi art students, it's time for another week of art, and first we're going to do Godzilla of the Week. Now, we're not voting on Godzilla of the Week because I'm running out of Godzilla, so I'm just digging them up out of my closet, okay? So here's this week's Godzilla of the Week. It is Godzilla 1975. Um, Godzilla 1975 was in the movie Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla. And he's kind of a simple design, but he's kind of cool looking. He looks kind of tough, like he's going to fight. And that's mostly what this movie and a couple movies after it were like about. They're about like wrestling and fighting other monsters and stuff like that. And so this particular Godzilla was in 3 movies. He was in Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla, Godzilla versus Gigan, and I think it was like Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla Part 2, or I think they call it maybe something else. But this particular Godzilla was in 3 movies, and they were the most like wrestling versions. But he's pretty cool. You can see how he's kind of mean looking. This is a Billiken model, and you can tell right here. See this weird little strip? You're like, well, that's kind of stupid. Why did that strip there? Because that hid the original zipper in the suit. So like this was a suit, a rubber suit, and they would pull that piece off, and then there'd be a zipper underneath it. But again, I think those details are cool that they include in these models because it makes it look more authentic to the original Godzilla costume. Because this was before computer animation. This was back in the days where film and rubber suits and like actual explosions like near these poor guys in suits. But anyways, he's pretty neat. So that's Godzilla 1975, from the year 1975. So that's like 45 years ago. That's Godzilla. Okay, so now let's get on to the art portion of our video. Hello, lower multi-age students, remote students. We're going to talk about our hot chocolate project. Here's the materials that I sent home with you. You got a pattern paper, which has a pattern. You have like a square. This is going to be your background paper. It's like a square. And then you have a thin rectangle. This is going to be your tablecloth paper. And you didn't get to pick your colors. Sorry about that. I just had to pick something for you and to send home. So if you don't like your colors, then you'll just have to make do and, do the best you can with it. The colors don't matter. I mean, Also, I picked your oil pastels. So I sent you some oil pastels, and they're probably not neat like this. They're probably little broken pieces. So they're probably like this piece. So they're probably not super neat or anything. But whatever, you'll be able to do this, and this will look great. What we're going to do is we're going to create a hot chocolate on a textured background. And what's funny is I don't have a finished one handy here to show you. But there is you don't have to print it or look at it, but for parents, Mrs. Lee, she did like a step-by-step paper, and I'm going to put it in the description. So if you care, you can look at that, but you don't have to. We'll work on our the shape of our our hot chocolate cup next week. Today we're only going to focus on our patterns. We're going to make some patterns on this is going to be like our tablecloth, and then this is our background, right? And then what we're going to do next week, not today, is we're going to draw a cup, and I'll show you how to do that next week. We'll draw a cup, we'll cut it out, so we'll have a cup, and we'll paste it on our tablecloth and our background. For today, though, we're just doing patterns. We're going to do a pattern on our tablecloth. You can kind of see it looks like the tablecloth. You can imagine a coffee cup here. Later we'll do that. We're not going to draw a coffee cup. We'll do that on this other paper. Okay? And the important thing to do is we're going to draw patterns on these papers. We have a pattern paper, but this is for our coffee cup. This is for next week. So you'll have a different pattern too. So use this pattern page for your coffee cup next week. So put your pattern paper away. So I'm going to put it away. And all I have is these two papers. And so we're going to draw some patterns. Now, the trick is, how do you draw a pattern? Right? What's a good pattern? What does it look like? Well, it's up to you. I'm going to show you. So I'm going to show you a simple pattern, a couple simple patterns, and you can just, and if you don't care what you do, you're like, I like what Mr. Smith did, then you can just do that pattern. But I'll show you some different ideas on how to make some different patterns. But for now, we'll start easy. Probably the most easiest pattern is a checkerboard. Let's see, I don't have very many pretty colors here. Let's see, I got brown. I guess I'm going for brown. Okay, so probably the easiest pattern is a checkerboard. If you don't want to do a checkerboard, I'll show you some different ideas. But a checkerboard is, you want to very carefully draw some lines. Let's see here. I'm going to turn my paper to help me draw my lines. So I'm going to go one. Probably the easiest way to do a checkerboard on this is like my tablecloth, right? I would recommend two lines so that you have three stripes, right? So 2 lines. A parent can help you if you need help. The hard part is we want to get squares. So we have to divide these into the same size. So you think of a square. So like that's like one row of squares. And then the question is, how far over do you make your next line? Well, you want it to be the same size as this. Now you can look at this and try your best to make it the same. You could measure, but boy, you don't have to. But if you're really particular and you want to make it perfect, it doesn't have to be perfect, but if you could measure it. I'm not going to measure. I'm just going to look at this one and try to make it similar. It's close. And don't worry if it's like not, like if it's not, like, oh my gosh, this one's even skinnier than that one. Don't worry about it. Let's see, I want to make this a little bigger. So I'm just dividing these lines. It's like a grid, right? All right, and then, whoa, okay. So there's a checkerboard, but now I got to color every other one, right? Now, don't worry if your lines aren't perfect. If they're like some are skinnier, some are farther away, that's okay. Don't worry about it. But the most important part about a checkerboard is this. You're going to color every other one and then skip it and color it the opposite on the next line. That sounded pretty complicated, so it's probably better if I just show you what I mean. So I'm going to skip every other one. And you want to color neatly. What I recommend is this. You kind of go around the edge first and then you fill in. So you can kind of see how I did that. So watch. I skip the next one, so I skip every other one, and now I'm going to color this one. But watch what I'm going to do. I'm going to go around the edge first, kind of make a box. That way I don't have to worry about going outside the lines as much, and then I just fill it in as best I can. You take your time. I'm going to go a little faster so it doesn't take forever for me to show you how to do this. But you take your time, okay? I skip the next one, and then I fill in the one after that. I'm going to edge it. And I'm going to fill in. Take your time. I'm going to go a little faster so this video isn't like 4 hours. Unless you want to listen to me for 4 hours. Like, no, I don't think so, Mr. Smith. I got things to do. Yeah, I know. Okay, so that's my first row. Okay, now for my second row, I want to go on the square that doesn't have a filled in square on top of it. So I don't want to fill in this one. I want to fill in this one. Because this one doesn't have a filled in square on. Oops, I put a mark there. Oh no. But I want to fill in this one because this one is the opposite. It's the opposite of that one. Okay, so I'm going to fill it in. And a parent can help you do this. And then I skip this one because this one has the dark on top, and I skip to this one. It's kind of like a checkerboard. If you have a checkerboard laying around, you know that you have this. There, right? And then I skip this one. So it's like, so it was light, dark, dark. Now it's dark, light, and then this one will be dark. So I'm going to fill these in quick. Just not to take forever. And you do it neatly, okay? I'm just going to do it faster so that the video is faster. Okay. Now I'm onto my, and you can like, okay. Now I want to skip again. So now this one's dark, so this one needs to be light, and then this one's dark, right? So it's like every other one. It's like the opposite. And like I said, a parent can help you do this, or if you can just figure it out, great. Now, one important concept that will come back when we try to figure out if you want to make your own pattern. Now, you can do a checkerboard because a checkerboard looks nice on a tablecloth. You can do that. But if you want to do a different kind of pattern on this, you can. You can do dots, wavy lines. But I'm just doing the checkerboard because it might be easy for you to do. A parent might be able to help you draw your lines. Maybe like mom or dad, if you have like a kindergartner, maybe you can just draw the lines, and then you can have your kindergartner, or you can have them draw it, or you could draw the lines and then they could color it in. It's up to you. Okay, but there's a nice checkerboard, right? Now, what I recommend if what you should try to do is, oh boy, I got all these little shavings, is if you can pick an edge, you might try to make your you can very carefully kind of go on your edges and try to make them look sharper, kind of like more of like a square. See how this doesn't really touch there? The problem is it's tricky. You have to find the edge of your colored pencil, and you probably have like a little piece. You probably have like a little chalk, and so that might be hard to do. But if you can, go for it. I mean, it's hard to do, but if you can, try to make those edges a little neater. That might be hard for a kindergartner, but like a third grader can probably do that. Or maybe you're just a kindergartner and you're like, I could do anything a third grader can do. Then great. Then try. It's hard to do, especially if it's a small, it's easier for me to do it because I got this nice piece. I didn't send you a nice piece. I probably sent you, I haven't sent them home yet. I probably sent you a little chunk of a, it's probably cheap. But you'll be okay. If it's not perfect, it doesn't have to be perfect. Okay. So there's checkerboard. Now, one thing to keep in mind about this pattern is that they call this an offset pattern. Offset means there's like a design and they're offset, meaning like they're moved over a little bit. So like this square is moved over a little bit from this square, so they're kind of like moved, and they call that offset. And that's it's kind of like a zigzag almost, and that's kind of an important thing to do later, and I'll talk about being offset when we try to, if you want to do your own kind of pattern, but you're like, no, I like the checkerboard, then great, you can just use a checkerboard. Checkerboard looks nice for so like what I'll do is later, we'll glue this on the bottom of our paper, right? So this is like the tablecloth, right? And then we'll have like a pattern in the background. Okay. All right, so there's that. So I'm going to move this away. Now we need to do a pattern on our background. And there's a lot of different patterns we can do. And I'll give you a lot of ideas soon, but you just need to pick one. If you don't really care, and you're like, I'll just do that one, Mr. Smith, that one's good enough, then great. I'm going to do it. Let's see, how is this going to look? Ooh, that's hard to see. I got to go dark green. Let's see, how does dark green look? Yeah, it's pretty dark green. Okay, I'm going to flip this over. Parents, make sure your student's name is on the back of your paper, right? So you can just put your name on the back and then flip it over. Ugh, getting all these. Okay, so make sure your name's on the back so that way I know it's yours. Although there's not very many of you remote students, so I'll probably figure out who it is, right? If you didn't. My bigger classes, it's hard to do. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how to do a wavy line pattern, and then when I'm done with that, you can do it if you want. You're like, I'll just do what Mr. Smith does. That's great, you can do it. But I'll show you some other patterns you can do if you want to do something different. So if you don't want to do a wavy line pattern, you can just wait till the end, and I can show you some other examples like polka dots and spirals and whatever. I'll show you some different ideas. But for now, let's just do wavy lines. So how am I going to do my wavy line? Well, I'm going to turn my paper, I want it to be at a diagonal. I want my wavy lines to be at a diagonal. So I'm going to turn my paper a little bit, and I'm going to start, let's see, you can barely even see my whole paper. You can almost see it all. I'm just going to start right here, and I'm going to do a wavy line. Okay? Now, if your lines are, now that's actually not too thin, but if your lines are too thin, it will be hard to see your pattern, right? So what I recommend, you have a choice. There's two different ways to make this. We want our line to be bolder or bigger, thicker, right? So there's two different ways to do it. One way is this. You can put another line next to it and very carefully, this is hard to do for a young student, but you can do that and then you can fill it in carefully with your oil pastel. That's what I would recommend. The tricky part is hard to try to do it neatly. And don't worry if it's not perfect. It's all right. Okay, that's one way to do it. Another way to do it is to just make it kind of thick to begin with. So watch, I'm going to make my line. That wasn't very curvy. But then you just kind of go on top of it until it's nice and bold. Like you kind of keep going over it until it's nice and bold. So whatever works for you is great. Like I just want to see a pattern. And don't worry if it's not perfect. It's hard. It can be tricky to do. These can be really messy. So, as you can tell, like little bits are falling. So maybe mom or dad or parent, you might just want to like once they do something, you might want to like kind of knock off some of these extra pieces. And then I have a scratch paper underneath it so I don't get this stuff on my table. And then I just maybe kind of put it in a trash can. This one's getting yucky, so I don't know what to say. But, you know, I don't know. That can help it be kind of clean. So anyways, I'm going to do this wavy line. So you can see that just like my checkerboard pattern, I'm kind of skipping. I'm skipping a little bit of space to make a pattern. It's not just super close lines, although they could be super close. I mean, I'll show you that later. But I'm kind of skipping. So now it's kind of like I have like a green, and then I've almost got like a blue wavy stripe in the middle now, right? So, I mean, that's how patterns work. They alternate. It's like a design. Oh, I can't even see what I'm doing here. That alternates. So again, I'm going to draw my line. I'm going to draw another line close to it and then fill it in. But like I said, if you just want to make it bigger, it's fine by me. Watch, I'll show you the other method again. Oh. All right. See, my next one, I'm just going to make it bigger. So here, it's getting harder now because now it's like longer across the page. Oh, I totally went the wrong way. That's okay. There's no wrong. So now I drew my first line, but I'm just going to make it bigger. I've got a camera in my way, right in front of my face. Ooh. Let's see. Okay. That one didn't curve very much. Let me see if I can curve my next one. Okay, that was a little more curvy. And then I'm just going to bolden it up. Ooh. Okay. Now before we go on and finish this, let's talk about making this neater, right? So you can kind of tell this one looks pretty neat. This one's not so neat yet. It's because there's a lot of kind of like, it's not white, but they're like the light blue is kind of peeking through. It's not very solid green line. What you could do is you could very carefully draw your shapes and then maybe go back in and try to fill them in neatly. It's probably easier to fill it in while you're doing it. So like this one's not filled in all the way yet. So I'm going to go in and try to fill that in a little better. I mean, that's really the secret of neatness, is you just want it to be kind of neat and solid. You can see already it's getting a little better. Another thing you can do is, and this might be hard for a kindergartner, so do your best. But like, see how my line is kind of is hard to do if you have a little piece. But you can try to go. It might be too hard to do. But what you can do is you can try to go on that edge and try to make it a little sharper. It's hard to do. And if your line gets a little bigger, that's okay. Trying to press down a little, trying to make that look a little more solid. It's kind of hard to do. So now this one doesn't look so good, so maybe I need to go on this one and try to make it a little more solid. Oh, let me try here. Maybe a parent can help you clean it up. Like maybe you put them in there and then maybe a parent can help you. This is more like maybe a parent thing to do, which is okay. Or if you're like, no, I want to do it, then go for it. That's cool. Good. Like, I'm going to do it myself. All right. It's okay if it's not perfect. You want to try to make it perfect. But if you can't make it perfect, it's okay. You just don't want to be lazy, right? Like you want to try. If you try and it's not perfect, that's perfectly fine. Okay, so I'm going to finish up my last lines just so it doesn't take forever. So let's see. I'm going to go kind of fast just so that we can get to the next part of the video. In fact, maybe I just won't finish these. I'll just kind of put them in place. Okay. Oh, ooh, I made a mistake. That's okay. I'm gonna see. Maybe I can just make this thicker. Yeah. So don't worry about mistakes. I just want you to, there. See, it doesn't look so bad. It looks like a tiger stripe. It's fine. Okay. Okay. So I didn't clean these up yet, right? See how these are nice and clean? But you get the idea. So that's my pattern. Okay. And then I would try to clean these up. Parents, this can get messy really quickly, so maybe, I don't know what to say, the the best way is like not to touch any of these pastel lines, which is practically impossible for a young student, right? That's very hard to do. So student and parent, just try not to leave your hand and like smudge it. A paper might help, but I think it'll still smudge. Like you can maybe put a paper down and then try to use your hand, but if this paper moves, it might smudge it, but it might be better than your hand. So you can put a paper down so that it doesn't smudge as much. This is impossible for a young student. This is just don't touch the paper. Just hover your hand above it and very carefully, have perfect motor skill control and like don't do that. That's pretty hard for a student to do. So I get it. So, I mean, if you touch it a little bit, that's okay. Maybe rest your hand outside the paper and then try to do it. But I guess the goal is try not to touch these stripes as best you can. This might work the best if you have a little piece of paper here, and then you can do that. I don't know. It's up to you. If it's smudged a little bit, it's okay. It's all good. Okay. Now let's say this is good. So this is like a 2-color pattern, right? I'm using the color of the paper with my green stripe. So now it's like a green and blue stripe. Let's say you have a different color and you're like, can I do a third? Like, can I put like a little stripe in the middle? Of course you can. You could do don't do more than 4 colors though. But 1 color is okay. So I have 1 color in the background color, so that's 2 colors. If you want to add a couple colors, like maybe, but make it repeat. So if you're going to do orange, you have to think about what it's going to be. So maybe I'll have orange in the middle. So like I have a little orange stripe and then there's still blue in there, right? You can do that. But keep it consistent, keep it similar. If you're going to do polka dots, maybe you want to have like 4 different polka dot colors. That's fine, you can do that. So depending on what colors you have, or maybe you have oil pastels. If you have oil pastels at home and you have more colors to choose from, you can pick different colors than what I sent home for you and you can do your own colors. But I don't recommend more than 4 colors because then fewer colors will make it a more cohesive pattern, but I mean, it's not wrong if you have more, but I recommend 4 or less colors. I recommend just one. You'd only need 1 color, right? And that looks pretty good. Okay, so then that's technically, if I finished all this, this is all I would have to do. Now you want to hold on to this. You want to hold on to this because next week, which will be after Christmas break, we're going to do our cup. And then, so like, I'll show you. We're not going to do it today, but on this pattern paper, we're going to very carefully draw a cup and cut it out, and then we're going to glue it on. So, but we're not going to do that till next week. So for today, this is all we focused on. And that's it. So if your student followed along and just did these patterns, or maybe you, parent, have an idea for a pattern and you want to help them, that's fine. You don't have to watch the rest of this video. But I'm going to talk for another 5 minutes about different kinds of patterns you can make. And if you want your student to watch that, great. If not, you can just stop the video. This is all. But this is what we're doing. We're doing the tablecloth, which is this thin rectangle, and then we got the background, right? You can use more colors if you want, but I don't recommend more than 4. So I hope that was fun and interesting and not too messy. Have a good week, and I'll see you next time. Now, if you want to just if you want some more ideas about patterns, I'm going to show you right now. So I did checkerboards and wavy lines. Here, let me just draw some, here, I'm going to divide this in 4. So I'll give you some other ideas. Okay. So who says you have to do wavy lines? How about circles? Can you do circles? Sure. You can do like polka dots, right? Here's what I recommend though on polka dots. You're going to go like, and these are kind of hard to draw. So circle and leave some space. Circle, circle, and then I would be doing another circle. And then for our second line, just like the checkerboard, we're going to offset them. So like in the space, in the empty space, I would put another circle here, right? It's kind of like a checkerboard, but with circles. Circle, and then there'd be like a circle here, right? And then there'd be a circle here. And then in the third row, I would do a circle here, right? That's kind of the empty, like these kind of connect. And they call this an offset pattern, right? Now, this is hard to do. But if you're careful, you could probably get it pretty close. It's also hard to draw circles. But if you're like dying to do polka dots, great. And you could try kind of color them in, right? I'm not going to color them all in, but you would color them in. You could do different colors too. Like I said, I don't recommend more than 4. I'm not going to send that doesn't look very good, does it? I'm not going to send very many colors home with you. I'm probably only going to send like 4 colors. But if you want to use them all in your pattern, that's fine. These don't, yuck. It's hard to do a circle. It's hard to do a circle with these oil pastels. So maybe you want to avoid that. But you kind of get the idea, the concept. Maybe you want to make your circles bigger. I don't know. Because that background paper is pretty big. So maybe you just want to do bigger circles, like big, like circle, 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 right? I don't know. It's up to you. But that's circles, but they're offset, right? Okay, what else could we do? We did those wavy lines, but how about if they're closer together? I left a pretty big gap in mine. How about like, or maybe you could do like just lines. I could go like this. I could put them really close together. That's hard to do though. This is also hard to do for a young student. But you're like, I could do it, Mr. Smith. Okay, great. If they're close together, I don't know if you can't, it's difficult to use a ruler with these things. Sometimes what they'll do is, here, do I have a ruler? Don't do this. This is complicated. But this is just for your, like sometimes, don't do, I can't believe I'm telling you this. Sometimes they'll use this won't work. This is not going to work. But they use this for painting. They use a ruler and they tilt it up. And let me see if I can even get it to work. Oh, see, that's hard to do. It's probably easier just to draw them by hand. But it's hard to get these straight. But the fact that they're close together, it creates a nice pattern. I almost need another line in here. There. Okay. Could they have been zigzags? Yeah, like I could have gone like this maybe. Right? I don't know. So that might make a pattern. What other ideas do we have for patterns? Let's see. You could do maybe you could do like maybe you could start with a grid. Oh boy, look at that straight line. Sorry. You could start with a grid, but instead of filling them in like a checkerboard, see, I can make this a little bolder. You could have things happening at each coordinate of the grid. So like I could have like another box in here.
So I have like a box kind of centered on that. That might make a real interesting checkerboard, or not checkerboard, but like a pattern. Maybe I could use a different color for this box. So like maybe I have like a brown for the original grid, and then maybe a red for this, depending on what colors you have at home. But this is hard to do. Boxes within boxes within boxes. That's kind of hard to do. There'd probably be one here. So that way, this is like I could have done diamonds. Here. I could have done a diamond. So like, they're like, and I could color these in. Brown's getting kind of boring. It's hard to color in with these oil pastels. So I guess the trick is make your pattern big. Like my pattern was pretty big. It probably could have been thicker. Like I probably could have made my green line like this thick, like as thick as this blue. So I don't know, but this might make a nice pattern. The grid might help you. All right, let's see what else I could do. Let's see, what other kind of patterns can I quickly show you? Trying to think what comes to mind. Nothing's coming to mind. You could do offset diamonds. Oh, here's what you can do. You can do something offset. So remember, hello. Offset, right? And they could be circles. Let's see. But you can put something in the middle, like a hole. So watch, let's see. Let's see, so they're offset. Remember how we talked about the circles. Diamonds are kind of hard to draw. See, even I had a hard time drawing student. But what you could do is, instead of filling that in completely solid, you can just make it a real thick line, so it kind of has like a hole in the center. So that's kind of a nice pattern. It's a little different from then just like instead of a solid diamond, it has like a little diamond in the middle, and that's kind of nice. And that looks pretty good. Oh, I have another idea for a pattern. So these are complicated. It's okay to do something simple. Anything, you can have any kind of pattern though, right? Okay, I have one more idea. You can start with a small diamond in the middle, and then it can radiate from it. So watch, I got like a diamond. Oh, it's hard to use these. And then I can have a bigger diamond around it. And then a bigger diamond. Wow. You're like, how come I'm not using a marker, Mr. Smith? That'd be way easier. Yeah, I know. Bigger diamond. So you can see how it radiates. Radiates means it gets bigger, right? But this is hard to do for a young student. Like I said, do what you can. Bigger. Now you can see I'm starting to run out of paper. That's okay. I just draw to that, like I kind of draw to that point, and then this might be a fun pattern. See, I'm running out of paper, so I'm just going to keep, so that these would kind of go here, this would kind of go that way. And again, a parent can maybe help you. This is hard to do, but it's just another idea. So I showed you a bunch of different ideas. This is like, they call it, I could start with a circle, so I could go circle, and then bigger circle, and circles are hard. I think diamonds are easier than circles. Maybe I could do like a spiral. See, that's hard to do too. I'm making it look easy. Diamonds are probably easier. These are diamonds, but they're not filled in. They could have been circles. Like I could have done a circle and just not fill it in. There'd be like a hole in the center. Like I could have done this. Right? And I could have... Don't feel bad if your art teacher's having a hard time. It's the material. It's hard. Or this. I like this one. This one's cool. Or this is like grid assisted. So you can draw, like a parent can draw a simple grid, and then the student can like put squares or diamonds in the midpoints. And parents, you can totally help this is hard. It's hard. It's hard enough to use these, but it's good practice to get the hang of this pastel. So here's just a bunch of different ideas. If you have a different idea for a pattern, go for it. I don't care. I just want to see some. I want to see a pattern. I want to see a pattern on your background. It can be bigger, right? So don't make your pattern too small because it's hard to get real detailed patterns with these kinds of pastels. And then you're going to have a pattern on your tablecloth. And if you just did checkerboard and wavy lines, great. I mean, that's fine. Or you can, like I gave you a bunch of different ideas, you can kind of invent your own patterns. It's up to you and it's up to the student. But that's all we have to do this week. If you want, you can glue this down. I guess we'll glue it next week, but like you can glue this and just glue it down at the bottom of your paper. So you can do that. If you don't, we'll glue it next week. So, but that's it. That's it for today. That was a lot of extra information about patterns and stuff, if you wanted it or not. But thank you for watching. I hope you had fun. These are kind of messy, so try your best and just be careful. I hope you have a great Christmas break, and we'll finish this when we come back from Christmas. So after Christmas, we will finish this. Oh, and one more thing. If you didn't finish your ice cream cone, you can watch the video and finish your ice cream cone and just send that when you come back from the break. I need to fire it in the kiln, and then I need to send it home with some ceramic glaze paint that you can paint on it, and then you need to send it back so that I can fire it in the kiln again. So that's a multi-step process. So if you didn't finish your ice cream, that's okay. Finish your ice cream, send it to school carefully so that I can put it in the kiln, even when it dries. When it dries, I still need to put it in the kiln because I need to bake it. And then, so it gets really hard. So we're going to finish this in the meantime. So this project might even get finished before we finish your ice cream. But don't worry, I'm not forgetting about your ice cream. We'll still finish that as soon as we can. So you can work on that too. So have a great Christmas, and I will see you soon. Have a great break. Bye.